Doing the rail isn't the hard part, it's just committing to the gap, because once you ollie out and touch down on the rail, if you don't slide the whole thing, you're gonna slam. I don't think he would die if he fell down it, but I think he probably would not be able to skate for a long time. He called me up and told me that he wanted to do that gap, and I've never been there, so I just guessed on how big to make the rail. And it was just a pretty standard rail. It was only about 2 feet tall, 20 feet long. Just getting the rail to the spot was hard. Mount Baldy is about 3 hours away from my shop, from the King Rails warehouse. And we drove it up there, and I didn't know, but we had to walk about a mile through rocks and bushes and trails and the whole nine to get to this spot. It took 2 people to carry the rail. There was a 15-foot wall that we had to scale down. We finally get through. We set up the rail across the gap, and it's gnarlier than I thought. On one side, you just have a straight down cliff, and on the other side, it's a bank like this that has no traction. It's so steep.
Got a bomb.
So we set it up just on flat ground so that Dane can start practicing it. And that's when I got the most nervous. He kept bailing, but on this, for some reason, maybe it was just the wind factor, or he was thinking about the gap too much, or whatever it was. You don't have that kind of room when you're trying any trick over this gap. As he got warmed up, though, he was back to Dane Brumett. He didn't miss a trick. He was doing board slides every try, he was doing feeble grinds every try, he was doing crooked grinds every try. So he had the rail figured out. It was easy for him. But then we had to move it to the gap. You're going up to a 20-foot gap, 20 feet deep, to broken glass, big chunks of concrete, rocks. He rolled up to it so many times. Again and again and again. Right before he got to it, he'd jump off every time. My heart would just drop. His first try on a board side, he stuck right in the middle and jumped. I thought he was done. On his first try, he stuck and just barely made it over to it.
Got me a stick.
So he pulled a board slide eventually. He did like 3 or 4 board slides. The mission was to do a feeble grind across it. He skated up to it probably 5 different times, and every time he couldn't bring himself to do it. So he went to front board. Nobody thought he was going to try front board across it. Again, it's not the rail so much, it's the mental challenge of skating that rail. Because I could show you 100 people who could board slide that rail, but putting it over a gap is a whole different thing. The day could have been completely different. We could have had an opposite outcome. And instead of carrying the ladder home, we'd have to be carrying Dane Brumett home. But he pulled. He pulled a board slide, and then he went above and beyond the Call of Duty, and he did a frontside board slide. And we haven't been back since.
Okay.